Yes, and welcome into another episode of Catch the Wave on the Fantasy Football Network. I'm your host, Zach, with Ocean State FF. Catch me at Ocean State FF. And on today's episode, I have my buddy Zach from Pro Football Craze joining us to discuss money lines and breaking down all the games from the Week 1 NFL action. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's go. Joining us now is Zach from Pro Football Craze. Week 1 action, NFL money lines. Here to give you his predictions, some of the juicier underdog picks, and overall basically who he likes for this Week 1 action. And let's not waste any more of the people's time. Let's start right at the top here. We're going to run through the money lines. We're essentially going to say, hey, I like this team, but they're probably not going to win, so I'm going to save those units. Or maybe you're going to say, hey, I like the underdogs in this game, so maybe I'm willing to put a little bit on the line. But right now, we're going to get into the Thursday night action, the opening game, which is going to be the Buffalo Bills playing at the Los Angeles Rams. The defending Super Bowl champs are somehow the home underdogs. Are you feeling Vegas here, or do you think Buffalo takes this one?
No, I think that the Rams will take this one. I was surprised there honestly are the underdogs. Just a small underdog, but still, I think that the Rams being at home, coming off the Super Bowl win, you can't come off more of a hot finish to last season than winning the Super Bowl. So I think they are able to pick up right where they left off. Stafford's elbow is supposed to be a non-concern, and they added Allen Robinson in the offseason to this offense. So I think that they're going to be a great team again. And although the Bills are, a lot of people's Super Bowl favorites, and Vegas seems to think so as well, I think the Rams will take this game at home.
Yeah, man, I totally agree. And I love the plus 110. This is honestly one of my favorite picks just to kick off the week already. Like, I kind of like it when the Thursday night action kind of has a little juice going on. And maybe Vegas is doing that to us on purpose just to get us hooked back in it again. So, Zach, you're going to say that the Rams are taking this and you're liking the plus 110 money line.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. And just to clarify, we are not professional gamblers here. We are just two fellas that love the sport of football. And the sport of football is so much better when Joe Flacco is playing. And believe it or not, we have a Joe Flacco revenge game here. We got Baltimore Ravens visiting the New York Jets, who will be without Zach Wilson. As much as the coaching staff would like to allude that he will play, it's going to be Joe Flacco week 1. And for those reasons, I'm not touching this game. You're looking at it right now that the Ravens are favored at minus 295. Vegas is basically saying no chance for the Jets. Do you agree, sir?
Yeah, I don't really think there's a point of betting on this game. The Ravens are by far favored to win. I think that they will win by a lot. Even with Zach Wilson, I don't think this game would be close either. I'm not a huge fan of what the Jets have this year. And I really like what the Ravens have, getting Lamar back in that healthy defense, along with, bringing back J.K. Dobbins. They're missing Marquise Brown from last year, but I think they'll be able to make up for it with Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman. So I'm not super worried. And the Jets just aren't a good football team, so I'm not too worried about the Jets pulling up the upset here.
Yeah, I am not going to push back on any Jet slander here. It is absolutely welcomed. So, yeah, we both like the Ravens taking this one easily. All right, let's move on to the next game here. We have the San Francisco 49ers visiting the Windy City, going to play against Justin Fields and those Chicago Bears. They're looking at the 49ers minus 295 for me. This is similar to the Ravens. I'm not going to really touch this one. I can see a world where the Bears pull this crazy upset just with having a young quarterback starting and the Jimmy Garoppolo drama behind the scenes. Who really knows? But I do agree with Vegas, and I see the 49ers taking this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think the 49ers will take this. They have so far, by far, the most proven coaching staff, and they both have young, mobile quarterbacks. But do I think that the Bears could actually win this game? Probably not. I don't think Justin Fields is quite at that level yet. But if Trey Lance comes out and he plays bad, this is a situation where the Bears could come out on top, and that could be a huge loss for the 49ers going throughout the season to start off on a bad note in the game that they're so heavily favored to win. But yeah, I'm staying away from this game as well because I think the 49ers are by far my favorite to win this game.
Nice. So we both like Trey Lance taking this one week 1. 49ers starting off 1-0. Could be some magic there with Trey Lance. It'd be exciting to see. But now let's move on to an AFC South showdown. Everyone's favorite game, the Colts visiting the Houston Texans. Right now, the Texans are the home underdogs at plus 265. Ring the alarm right now. This is a money line bonanza right here. I truly believe that there's a chance Texans take this one. You have the young juice, Damian Pierce in the backfield, Davis Mills coming off a somewhat impressive rookie quarterback season. Brandon Cooks is solid as it gets, and a lot of hype surrounding Nico Collins. So tell me, what's the chances the Texans start off 1-0 against the division?
Yeah, I would probably say it's around a 35% chance. I don't think it's super likely, in my opinion. I am high on the Colts, and Matt Ryan should start off the season great against the Houston Texans. But with that being said, with the money line being where it's at, where the Texans are currently plus 265, that would definitely be a bet that would be tempting just due to the fact they're such heavily the underdog. But I do think that Matt Ryan starts off hot this year. They have arguably the best back in the NFL. So I think it's going to be tough for the Texans, but people do keep sleeping on Davis Mills in that offense. So I think they have a chance, but I think Matt Ryan takes this one home.
Nice. Yeah, so I think this is our first split here. I'm going to just go Texans, and it's for the sake of just it being the Texans. I like Davis Mills, and I have a ton of Damian Pierce, so I would like to see that offense working week one. All right, let's move on to a game that features two pretty fierce animals. It's the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to the Motor City, where hopefully they can walk out with all of their kneecaps. And the Detroit Lions right now are the home underdogs at plus 165. This is another one I'm a little tempted, and it's gross because it's the Lions, but I can't lie. I did watch all of the Hard Knocks Lions so far, and this may be my second favorite team other than the Miami Dolphins. And boy, is that a pretty rough group of teams to root for. But tell me right now, Jalen Hurts versus Jared Goff. What are you thinking?
Well, I think that the Eagles have done a lot this offseason to better their team, and they did make the playoffs last year. So I think that's something we have to keep in mind here. Jalen Hurts needs to take a big step forward with his passing game this year if he wants to actually compete for a championship. And I do like what the Lions have done as well. They've brought in some key pieces, as well as, Dan Campbell over there. He is a hell of a coach, and the guys want to play hard for him. I'm just not sure that this is the game they take. I like the Eagles here. They've bolstered their defense as well as bolstering their offense. And like I said, Jalen Hurts, he can take that step forward. We need to see him take the step forward everyone's wanted Lamar Jackson to take year after year, where he improves his accuracy and his passing. And if he can do that, these Eagles are going to be a force to be reckoned with when it comes down the stretch. But week one, I expect them to start off strong against the Lions. But later on in the season, I think the Lions will be able to make a run here and there, get a few wins back to back, but not this game.
Real quick, while we're on the topic of the Lions, I just think they're just kind of a fun team to talk about. What do you have for a prediction as far as record this year? If you haven't already released it, I don't want to.
I have released it. I have them at 8-9, so just below 500. I think that they will be a better team than they were last year. I just don't think they're quite good enough to be able to push for that playoff spot. But in the NFC, I have three teams at 9-8 making the playoffs, so it could definitely happen.
Yeah, it seems like it's pretty top-heavy division with kind of Russ leaving, Devontae Adams being traded, and a division that absolutely is not top-heavy. It seems to be pretty well built all the way around. We'll go to the AFC North, one of the tougher divisions to play in. The Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Cincinnati to play the Bengals, who are the home favorites for probably one of the first times in a long time playing against the Steelers. The Bengals are favorited. And that's only because Ben Roethlisberger decided to hang it up this offseason. We got Mitch Trubisky going against Joe Burrow. Do the Steelers have a sneaky upset chance here? Like, why do I feel like that? Or is it just this is the Bengals are the Super Bowl appearance team? Like, why are we even going to count them out? Like, what are you thinking?
So as I was looking at the lines before the game, this was one that kind of did catch my eye, being that it's plus 230 for the Steelers. I'm not a huge Mitch Trubisky fan, but I think Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches of this generation. And, we've seen all these teams go to the Super Bowl, the Falcons, the Panthers, and then the next year they do absolutely nothing. So I think people are a little worried about that. Obviously, Vegas isn't with these odds, but as you said, this is the first time in a long time that the Bengals will be favored to beat the Steelers. So I'm a little tempted just due to the fact that the odds are so skewed. But I do think the Bengals will win this game. And obviously, Vegas feels the same way with them being minus 275. But it's something I could definitely see happen is that the Steelers come out this game on top.
Yeah, another team I'd be interested to hear your outlook on for the season is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you think that this team gets it done, or is it just like they hand it off to Pickett week 7?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Pickett's team by the end of the year. I like that they start off with Mitch Trubisky because you can't start with Pickett and then switch to Trubisky later on the season. That's not going to fly with anyone. So they definitely had to start with Mitch Trubisky in the hopes that he can play at a high level. But I have them projected just under 500 as well, just like the Lions. I just can't see them being able to make up for the question marks they have at quarterback. But we'll see Mike Tomlin. If any coach can do it, he's definitely one of them.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin's, like you said, he's one of the greatest coaches of our generation. I mean, all I know for football essentially is same for you, I'm sure, is Steelers synonymous with Mike Tomlin. And I think they've had like 4 coaches in like the last 100 years or something like that. Every coach they have just stays for like 20 years. So really, you can never count out an organization like that. And I think that's probably why we both look at it like, maybe.
These guys are sneaky pick.
So let's move on to another inter-division game. We have the New Orleans Saints traveling to Atlanta. The New Orleans Saints are the road favorites at minus 230. Falcons plus 195. This is an NFC South game. And if anybody can tell me about the NFC South and how wacky some of these games can be, it's you. At the same time, I think there's just more of a cohesion factor when it comes to the Saints versus the Falcons, who seem to be kind of more on the, either some people project them to be the number 1 overall pick, or some people like the trajectory of the team. So where do you fall? Like, where do you see the Falcons? And let's just start with this game. Saints taking this game easily on the road.
I think the Saints will take this game. The Falcons have this guy, Cordell Patterson. He's not very good at playing running back, so definitely don't want to bet on him. But with that being said, I think that the Falcons could definitely pull off some upsets throughout the year because I don't think they're going to be favored very often. And I am worried about the Saints without Sean Payton. When we saw him suspended for the whole Bounty Gate thing, the Saints went from being a playoff team to a 7-win team, and then when he came back, they were back up to a playoff team. And Sean Payton is another one of these coaches that has been great for so long, and I don't know what to expect from the Saints team. So I really don't want to bet on the Saints for a few weeks until I've seen what they can put on the field without Sean Payton. I'm worried about Jameis Winston without Sean Payton there to keep him in check. So I'm really weary of the Saints team. But they have the better offense and the better defense. And they're overall a way better team than the Falcons are. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm staying away from any Saints bets throughout the first few weeks of the season.
Yeah, I like that. So we're both just going to say, hey, Saints are going to win this, but I'm not touching any units as far as this bet here. Let's move on to the most exciting game of the week for you, my friend. And that is the Baker Mayfield revenge game. I need to put in a little sound drop right there. I'm going to put one right there. Revenge game. Revenge. No, it's something stupid. The Browns are plus 105. Panthers are home favorites at minus 125. I already know who you're going to pick here, but I'm just going to get ahead of it and give you my thoughts on the Panthers first. We're going to do a little switcheroo here. So I honestly believe that if Baker Mayfield can just show up and be like 75% of the quarterback that his ceiling is capable of, I think you guys easily take this game. If there's some sort of like crazy meltdown for whatever reason and Baker just crumbles under the pressure of playing his former team, it's going to be a rough start to the season. But I don't see that happening. I see Baker being a big headline week 1 with like a big smirk on his face as he's, going back to the locker room when it's 34-7. How are you? Give me your biased and maybe unbiased opinion on the Panthers here.
Well, I'll start with the Browns first here, and I think that the Browns they're gonna be okay until Deshaun Watson comes back. Jacoby Brissett has shown to us that he can be a very average NFL quarterback, and he's kind of like Teddy Bridgewater was. He's never gonna win you those games, but he won't be the reason you lost either. So I think he's going to be able to keep the Browns in games, and they'll probably be just under 500 until Deshaun Watson comes back. But for the Panthers, I am excited to see what Baker can do against his former team. This former team knows him well, and they have a very good defense, some great pieces in the secondary, and a great defensive line. So I'm interested to see how the Panthers' offensive line holds up, as well as what Baker can do with the weapons he has in Carolina. I like the Carolina odds here, the fact that they're only minus 125. But I would probably not bet on them just due to the fact that I could easily see Baker Mayfield just absolutely play like crap out there, and the Panthers could very easily lose this game.
Right, because the one thing we don't talk about when we make the Jacoby Brissett jokes is how good that Cleveland's defense still kind of is, So Myles Garrett could certainly be a nightmare for Baker Mayfield. But I would love to see some Baker DJ Moore action would be pretty awesome. So we're both going to agree here that the Panthers take this one, but there's a slight chance Jacoby Brissett walks away 1-0.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move on to an AFC East showdown. My boys are playing at home, and it's so nice to see them, as they should be, against the Patriots at home. They are favorited. The Dolphins are minus 180, Patriots plus 155 on the road. Bias aside, I wouldn't be upset with someone saying, no, I think the Patriots can pull this one off.
See, I project the Dolphins to win this game.
Yep.
But I'm actually surprised that the Patriots are plus 155. I thought it would be a lot closer if the Patriots weren't favored. But I guess Vegas does believe in this new look Miami Dolphins offense. We've seen coaches start off slower before as they try and implement their offense into a new team when you're actually playing against number one defenses. So we'll see how the Dolphins look. I wouldn't be against betting on the Patriots here, even though I think the Dolphins are going to win just due to the fact that they are an underdog. Plus 155, I think that you could very well see the Patriots win this game. I'm just a little weary with how we saw their offense look throughout preseason. Nothing was really clicking for them. But the Dolphins should win this game. They've brought in all this talent, a new coaching staff. And I know you obviously think the Dolphins are going to win this game, but I project the Dolphins to win.
We know what happens when New England travels to Miami. We know how well they do, and it's not very well at all. So I'm confident in this offense. And again, I'm not going to count out the Patriots. I'm not going to make that mistake. Other teams might think that way, but as an AFC East fan, I will never, ever count those guys out until Bill hangs it up. All right, so let's move on to an absolute barn burner of a game. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to the nation's capital, playing against the Commanders. Washington Commanders are minus 140, so they are the home favorite. Jacksonville Jaguars are plus 120, meaning that they are the undercats. So in this game, I like the Jaguars to not only win, but I like the Jaguars for the money line too. Give me that nice plus 120. You're essentially doubling your money on like a $50 bet, I would say. But what are your thoughts on the Jaguars this year? I know you're pretty high on Trevor Lawrence.
I am pretty high on Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be a top 12 fantasy quarterback by the end of this year. But I do think the Jags also take this game. I was running through my predictions earlier today, and I was looking at this game, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Commanders. Obviously, Vegas still has them as the favorite, but I think that Jacksonville, with Doug Peterson as their head coach, they brought in all these weapons for Trevor Lawrence. And I think we see him take a step forward. To me, he's a better quarterback right now than Carson Wentz is. And that was really the deciding factor is what do you think of Trevor Lawrence and Carson Wentz? And I like the ceiling that Trevor Lawrence brings to this team, and I think he's an extremely talented quarterback who could lead this team a little farther than people think this year.
Just like on the fantasy side of it, I love Trevor Lawrence in like 2 QB leagues. I think he's an absolute league winner. If you got him as your QB2, I think you feel pretty good with Trevor Lawrence. You have to like what they did for him in the offseason, similar to Tua. You surround him with pieces, you improve the offensive line, you give him some better weapons. Like we talked about it before, he was throwing a Jamal Agnew last year. Hard to judge a guy on his rookie season, playing for Urban Myers, throwing to a former cornerback specialist as your number one wide receiver. James Robinson is somehow going to come back from this Achilles injuries. Shout out to modern science technology because that's just incredible that he's projected to even start. Never mind play football at all. All right, so let's move on to our buddy Will's favorite game of the week, and that is the Green Bay Packers traveling to Minnesota to play the Vikings. And right now, the Vikings are the home underdogs. This is another juicy one, man. Aaron Rodgers on the road, still favored without Davante Adams. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I honestly thought this was going to be skewed more in the Packers' favor. I think that the Packers will win this game. We know we've seen lots of games come between these two teams over the past few years, and they seem to always hit the over. They seem to score a lot of points in these games, and I think losing Davante Adams does hurt in some ways, but I think Aaron Rodgers is talented enough that he can make up for it. So I like the Packers here at minus 120 as opposed to the Vikings at plus 100. But, there are questions with his receiving core. I just think Sammy Watkins is going to have a great game week one. We've seen that for how many ever years Sammy Watkins hasn't been on the Bills for. He's always great first couple weeks. Romeo Dobbs. I think that the Packers will be able to pull this up and get a win here.
Nice. I would have to kindly disagree with this one. I just like the odds of the Vikings being a home favorite. New coaching staff. I mean, talk about one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. You have Kirk Cousins, who's just nothing but consistent. You have a pretty great backfield. You have a pretty good offense here, and they're at home. You have Aaron Rodgers without Davante Adams. So I can see a world where that, the plus 100 could look kind of juicy to say, hey, I'm just going to take the home team here in an interdivisional game. Let's move on to another. I mean, we got a bunch of interdivisional games here, but I guess that's just how the schedule makers like to kick it off. So we have the Las Vegas Raiders visiting the Los Angeles Chargers. There's a lot of losses in this game right now, but only one team can truly lose. And the Las Vegas Raiders are the road dogs at plus 155. Chargers are obviously the home favorite at minus 180. So this is a West Coast game, AFC West divisional showdown. I have the Chargers as taking this division. So for me, I'm going to say Chargers, but I don't really love anything at that the minus 180, just for me personally. But can you see this being one of those AFC West, like just showdown right to the end, or do the Chargers just wipe the floor with the Raiders?
See, I think this game will go down to the end. I like what the Raiders have done this offseason. They brought in a great trio of running backs, and they added Davante Adams, who, in my opinion, is the best wide receiver in football. Hopefully, Darren Waller will be out there. And I think that the Raiders could actually steal this game away from the Chargers. That's the way I currently have it projected, even though I do think the Chargers will win the division. I think the Raiders start off with a win here. This new coaching staff is going to be energized. And Davante Adams and Derek Carr are going to want to go out there and show everyone that they are the real deal. Davante Adams is going to be matched up against J.C. Jackson all game. But I don't think that matters. I like what the Raiders have done, and I'm a lot higher on them than a lot of other people are. So I think that this game could go the Raiders' direction at 155. I think those are pretty good odds to bet on.
I totally agree with what you're saying. The Raiders can definitely be frisky, especially with the addition of Davante Adams. But just at the same time, I don't know. I think the Chargers are actually going to be I think Justin Herbert takes the next step. That defense is kind of crazy on paper. So I see the Chargers. For me, they're one of my Super Bowl favorites. Spoiler alert. All right, so let's get into this next one. Another evening game here. We have the New York Giants traveling to Tennessee to play the Titans. Everyone remembers the Titans, and so does Vegas. They remember that they were the number one seed last year because they are minus 250 home favorite. I'm not sure anybody would ever want that except for the most extreme Tennessee Titan fan. But the New York Giants, led by Daniel Jones, plus 210 on the road. As awesome as that payout may sound, when you plug in the money and see what the equation turns out to be, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. How do you feel about the Giants and Titans?
I think the Titans are going to win this game. Plus 210 is kind of tempting, but I'm not willing to bet on this new look Giants offense quite yet. We'll see what Saquon Barkley looks like, and we'll see if Brian Daboll can help Daniel Jones take that step forward. So I'm not 100% sure that this team is going to be able to compete quite yet. So Titans, I think, are going to win, but with being favored by so much, I'm not touching this game.
Yep. No, I totally agree. Yeah. So we like the Titans in this one. Titans starting 1-0. So based off our predictions, the AFC South right now, basically they're all undefeated except for the Colts.
Or the Texans, depends.
Or the Texans. So Colton, Texans. So
depends on.
We'll have to check in on that one to see. They all of them lose somehow. They're all 0-1.
They're all 0-1, and the Colts and Texans tie.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to a game that has way too much of the color red featured in it, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs traveling to the desert to play the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are the home underdogs at plus 200. This is probably one of the top 3 games I'm definitely willing to put some units on. I just like the idea of the Cardinals in the first 8 weeks of the NFL season, especially when they're playing at home. You have Kansas City on the road for the first time without Tyreek Hill. And as much as we can say Patrick Mahomes is incredible, let's not forget how incredible Tyreek Hill was for Patrick Mahomes. Do we see the same powerful, this is the Chiefs, Andy Reid offense in the desert, or do we see the Cardinals be like, no, we are the kings of the first 8 weeks of the NFL? What do you see going down here?
So I can see this game going both ways, but I do think the Chiefs will start off a little rough. It's going to take Patrick Mahomes some game time to actually learn how to spread the ball around more. He doesn't have that dominant Tyreek Hill at the wide receiver position anymore, so he's got to learn in game how to get those other guys involved more. So I do think that the Cardinals could take this game. I still project the Chiefs to win, but I can easily see a situation where the Chiefs start off real slow just due to the fact that Patrick Mahomes didn't used to have to spread the ball around to 7 different guys on a drive. He's been able to rely on Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce so much throughout the beginning of his career, but I don't think this is something that hinders the Chiefs season long. I just think it might take a game. So I would be interested in the Cardinals here as well.
Excellent. So do we think this is the year the Cardinals can do a second half?
No.
Can they finish the marathon, or are they just going to gas out halfway through again?
They'll gas out halfway through again. I'm not in love with Cliff Kingsbury as their coach, and I'm not a huge Kyler Murray fan. I haven't really seen anything from either of them to prove to me that they have what it takes to compete at a high level when it comes to either finishing out the season or winning in the playoffs. They got demolished by the Rams last year. So I don't think this is the year the Cardinals become a great football team second half of the year.
All right, so let's move on to 2 teams that played each other opening weekend last year. It was actually the Thursday night game. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Dallas to play the home underdogs at plus 120 are the Cowboys right now. So do we like Tampa Bay on the road here with all the weird stuff going on? Hey, I'm 45. I got a lot of going on. So give me a break. I'm trying to apply for AARP. I got a lot of shit to do. All right, man, leave me alone. This is my 57th training camp. Okay. I don't need to be here.
I think that the Bucks are favored in this game, and rightfully so. I think that they'll be fine. They added a couple weapons on the offensive side of the ball with Russell Gage and Julio Jones. They lost Gronk, which is going to hurt them a little bit in the red zone. But there's still a chance that Chris Godwin even plays in this game, from what I've heard somehow. Whether or not he plays, I'm not super concerned. I think Dallas is going to struggle a little bit this year, especially to start with that offensive line that's not what it used to be. And I like Dak. I like Zeke. I like Tony Pollard. Gallup is still hurt, and I'm not sure that Trayvon Diggs is going to be able to replicate his interception numbers from last year. So I like the Bucks here, but they are favored at minus 140. So not sure I would take that line, but I still project the Bucks to win.
I totally get why Vegas has the Bucks favored. I wouldn't mind throwing a small amount of units on the plus 120 just because it's the Sunday night game. It's the only game that will be on. I want to have a little more skin in the game, and I've seen enough of Tom Brady in my life as a person living in New England and being a Dolphins fan. So you like the Bucks here. I like the Bucks to win, but I am probably gonna probably look at that Cowboys plus 120 just because they're at Jerry World. So I like just that slight advantage for them. All right, so the last game, we have the Monday night revenge special. I got one question for you. Broncos country. I guess that's more of a statement, but
let's ride.
Man, that's just terrible. All right. So we have the Denver Broncos riding their way into Seattle to go play in the Pacific Northwest. Russell Wilson's old stomping grounds. Man, Vegas showing no love to the Seahawks at home, being the home underdogs at plus 240, and the Broncos being minus 285 on the road. Do we imagine? Let's throw some more puns in there. So do the Broncos stampede right over the Seahawks? Or is this going to be a game that we look back and go, hey, maybe we were a little bit wrong about Geno Smith?
No, I don't think we're going to look back on this game and say, I think we're a little bit wrong on Geno Smith. I think that the Seahawks are going to struggle throughout the year, no matter who they start at quarterback. I'm not super concerned whether it's Geno Smith or Drew Lock. I don't love either of them as my team starting quarterback. And the Broncos currently, I project them to start the season off a little slower than I think they finish the season. But against the Seahawks, I think they should have a pretty good game. It'll be great for Russ to go back to Seattle. We see what the schedule makers have done with Baker and Russell Wilson playing their former teams week 1.
Well done, schedule makers.
I think that the Broncos will take this game, but the fact that they're minus 285, I don't think there's any point in betting in that whatsoever.
But before we wrap up the Monday night game, just for the people, there's a lot of people that play in pick'em leagues, and the bonus tiebreaker is whoever can guess the total points scored on the Monday night football game. So Broncos at Seahawks, what do you have for a combined score? And just break that down to give me each team's respective score.
Yeah, so I think that the Broncos have a really good defense, which should definitely hinder the Seahawks' ability to throw the ball. But I'm a big fan of Rashad Penny, so I think they will still put up a few points. I could see them anywhere between 10 to 17 points. I project them 13, 3 field goals and a touchdown. So you got 13 points for the Seahawks, and I think the Broncos are going to go crazy. I think Russell put up 31. So you add those two together, you get 44 points. If I'm not mistaken, the current line is 45. So I guess I'm taking the under, but not by much.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, and I would agree with you on that too. The under for me is not representative of the Broncos offense. It's more representative of the Seahawks' lack of offense per se. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. All right, so there are your money line / pick'em picks. You have Zach from Pro Football Craze and you have Zach from Ocean State. So obviously 2 knowledgeable fellas to help you try to win a little bit of coin on Sunday while rooting for your favorite teams. Zach, I want to thank you so much for joining me as always. You're most likely going to be back here next week. So just keep doing that excellent research. And thank you for informing us. You really do help us make more confident picks. Any last words before I let you go here?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on again. I'll definitely be back. You can check us both out on the Fantasy Football Network for this week's episode of Crazy's Corner. If you play Dynasty football, we're going to be talking about our Dynasty, a couple guys we want to buy before the season kind of kicks off, and one guy we want to sell. So you definitely want to make sure you stay tuned for that. And as I said, thanks again for having me on. I look forward to having you on my show tomorrow night.
Yes, sir. I look forward to it. Thanks for joining me, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
All right. Talk soon.
So that does it for another episode of Catch the Wave on the Fantasy Football Network. And before we go, I just wanted to remind you that you can visit the Fantasy Football Network right here, www.fantasyfootballnetwork.com. It has all the best content creators in the game in one place. The best way I can describe it is Netflix for fantasy football. Everything you need, one-stop shop, including this incredible show you're watching right now. You wouldn't be watching it if you didn't already know about it.